Hi everyone, it's Allison and welcome to your practice. This is going to be a practice focused on your hamstrings. Not just stretching your hamstrings, in fact we will barely stretch your hamstrings, more about enlivening them and seeing if we can get them to just feel a bit more supportive and allow for more feel of stability on our legs. So the first thing we'll do is a little bit of a warm-up. What you will need for this is or possibly a chair, and if you have a slippery floor like I do, a blanket or a towel. If you have carpet, pause the video, go find 2 books or magazines that you can use instead, because we're going to move this blanket around on the floor on purpose. Okay, so let's get started. Feel free to hang on to something for balance. All we'll do is give kind of a pump action to the hamstrings. Right, so just in general, we have 3 hamstrings on each side on the back of the leg. So we're going to come to a nice kind of tall standing position, and I'm holding on to this wall for support. I'm going to shift my weight to one side, and I'm just going to bend my knee and straighten my knee. And then shift to the other side, bend and straighten. Just that much for right now. So you're shifting to one side, you're bending the knee, and then you're shifting to the other side. Now, if you've been sitting a lot recently, right, or if this exercise is new for you, it's not uncommon to get a little moment of almost like a Charlie horse or a cramp. And so part of the intention with this exercise is to get some circulation, some blood moving, and some kind of slidey-glidey action to the hamstrings. It's not a bad thing if it happens. It means you're working in the right area, and also means this exercise will be pretty beneficial. Right? Now, we are going to make it a bit more precise. So a couple things might be happening. Your knee might try to come forward as you bend. But we're going to imagine that actually the knee is staying relatively where it is. So it's just you bringing your heel toward your seat and then releasing your heel back down. Right? Trying to feel the muscles of the back of the leg that are creating that bend and that straightening, right? Now, the other few things that might be happening are the weight shift side to side if you feel like you're dropping in your hip. So if you're doing this, it won't be as effective. So you might just think to yourself, sort of lifted through the pelvis. That's why you're welcome to use something to hang on to. And then, of course, breathing. So maybe you inhale as you bend, and you exhale as you straighten. And that straightening is as important to move really slowly as it is with the bending. Okay, we've got a few more. We're going to change it up a little bit. So it's the same exercise, but I'm going to have you picture, whether or not it's happening, we're going to imagine that the heel is being drawn toward the center of your seat. Right, so I'm really thinking that to myself, just trying to get a little bit deliberate with which area I'm bending from. So it's like heel toward the center of the seat. We'll do that on one time to each side, and then we'll shift the image. So next, imagine that you're bringing your heel toward your opposite seat. Now, I'm doing this so subtly that I'm not actually trying to move my leg in space that much. I'm just trying to sense, can I feel that create a little bit of a spin to the leg? And then we'll switch sides. So it's like toward the opposite sitting bone. And you might just feel that that movement now came from a different area in the back of the leg. We've got one more piece. We're going to imagine as though the heel is being drawn toward the same side, the outer seat. Right? And this one will create a little bit of a rotating in of your thigh. Right, and switch sides, so it's as if your heel is being drawn toward the outer seat. And all those same concepts apply, right? So we're not really moving our knee forward or back. We're keeping the knee relatively where it is. We're staying lifted through the pelvis, and we're breathing. Let's do the whole thing again, once on each side. So we're just thinking to ourselves that we're bringing the heel toward the center of the seat. And less important that we actually do that, more important that we're staying really attentive to the image of that. And you can shift sides. So I'm really thinking to myself, heel toward the center of the seat. Right. And then the next time we do this, we're going to change the image and imagine that we're bringing the heel toward the opposite seat. And hopefully just feeling a different area of the back of the leg that assists with that action. And then you switch, opposite seat. Okay, and then the last piece is taking the heel as if toward the outer seat. I imagine the knee like it's resting on a bench or something so that there's a little spin in of the thigh. Last time, toward outer seat. Oof, okay, release. Notice the feel of the back of the legs, and if anything, it might just feel a little bit more full. You might be more aware of, oh yeah, okay, there's like a middle, and there's an outer, and there's an inner side. If that was uncomfortable on your back or on your knees, next time you do this, just do it a little bit less. You don't have to bend all the way. You know, you can just find that stopping point where it feels really doable, and you're in the range of motion where you're in control of the weight of the leg. All right. Okay. Next piece, it will involve a blanket. So let's actually start without the blanket for right now. I'm going to use the wall for support. I'm trying to stand up as tall as is comfortable, and I'm imagining my head is also very light on top of the spine. Now I'm going to show you this from the side first, and then I'll show you it from the front. So I'm going to take my right leg, this is the leg furthest from the wall, I'm going to bring it out in front of me. I'm going to keep the leg straight, and I'm just drawing a semicircle with the toes sliding around on the floor. Now, I'm not going to come very far back. In fact, if I come too far back, that would start to change what I'm doing in my hip. So I'm just going to come to the stopping point where I feel, okay, pelvis is still pretty level. And then I'm going to sweep all the way out and forward. Okay, so let's try that together, and I'll show you this from the front. I'll try my best. I'm actually going to scoot a little bit forward. So you're standing up fairly light and tall, right? If you're using something to hang on to for balance, you can do that. Otherwise, you can take hands either together or onto your hips. But you're going to slide straight leg slowly out and back. And what we're trying to keep is the feel of pretty level pelvis, right? Pretty level torso. Of course, there's some movement in there. I'll show you what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid the leg moving from the back. So this is me moving my leg. I'm really exaggerating it just so you can see it. This is me moving my leg from my pelvis and from my back. And we're trying to get into some of the muscles of the outside and the back of the thigh. Right. Of course, you're probably feeling this in your standing leg quite a bit, so that's a bonus. That's probably where you'll feel more sensation, honestly. Right. Okay, so that's pretty good. Go ahead and take a rest. If you want to give a little pat, 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 feel free. And then we'll switch sides, and later we'll add the blanket. So you'll take a leg out in front of you, opposite side, and you're tracing that half circle. There is no rush with this movement. In fact, it's better that you go slow and that you can breathe and that you can feel what's happening through the pelvis than it is if you do a whole bunch of these swinging from your pelvis and from your back. Right. Let's do a few more rounds. People always tell me with this exercise, all I feel is my standing leg. Absolutely, we're building the strength in the outer hip that keeps us balanced and allows us to be on one foot. If this feels like a lot, do one, rest, do another, and eventually it'll get easier and easier. Right. Of course, breathing, breathing, breathing. Let's take one more round. The way I first learned this is with socks. So if you don't want to increase the challenge just yet, you can put socks on your feet and slide around a slippery floor and let that be enough. If you want to increase the resistance, you would use a blanket. And I have this kind of thick Mexican blanket. You can use a towel, right? Anything that slides around. If you are on carpet, magazine works great, okay? This is also a nice opportunity to point the toes, so don't be surprised if you feel that in the arch of the foot as well, okay? So let's try it just a couple times with a blanket. I'm gonna do this from the side, so I have a hold of the wall. I'm trying to stand up pretty light so that I'm not clenching with my butt, and I'm also not trying to look down, just looking straight ahead. Now it's the same exercise, except now you'll have feedback from the blanket or the magazine or whatever you're moving around. So really continuing that line of action, really slow motion, movement. Let's aim for 3. Let's do 2 more. Right? And breath is moving in and out the whole time. You could also use for this exercise, if you have carpet, those furniture sliders that they make to help move tables and chairs and that kind of thing. Let's take one more round, and all those concepts apply, right? Lifted through the pelvis, long through the leg. Breathing. Okay, go ahead and release. Oof. So yeah, you'll probably feel the work on the balanced leg, but notice how you feel on the leg that was moved as well. It might feel just a little bit longer, lighter, more relaxed. Let's do it 3 more times on the opposite side. And don't worry if you're not using anything for resistance just yet. Still practice the exercise like we did before. Try to stand up pretty light. So the weight of your head is just right on top of the spine there. And then we'll begin, and you can trace that half circle out and back. Just thinking lifted through the pelvis. The beauty of some of these mobility type exercises is that there's no need to increase any kind of tension within the action. So people will also ask me, should I be engaging this or that? Don't worry about that. Just move the blanket or move your leg around, and that will be the right amount of effort to complete the job. In fact, see if you can resist any kind of clench or squeeze, and instead let the leg be available to move that blanket. Ooh, okay, very nice. Okay, we're almost there. We've got one more variation. This is going to be an exercise where we sit on the floor. You could also do this where you sit on a chair. I'm going to demonstrate it on the floor with the blanket. Same thing, you could use blanket, magazines, socks, right? So I'm going to come down to a seat, and I'm going to bring the heels onto the blanket in front. In fact, I'm going to show you this one from the side as well. Okay. So I'm propped up on my hands a little bit here. If you were in a chair, it's going to be a little bit less effort for you, but you'll take the feet out on the blanket in front. Right. Now I'm on my heels only, and I'm going to try to keep the blanket from getting really wrinkled. And all I'm going to do is slide the blanket out in front, and then I'm just going to drag the blanket back in. So this is a little for hamstrings. It's even more going to increase and relax the ability to flex your hip, which is what you're doing when you're bringing your heels close to you like this. Kind of like a leg press, except we're making it pretty slow. It's not a ton of resistance. We're focused more on the mobility part of this. Okay, so check in that at this moment your heels are pretty even. So your kneecaps are, maybe turning out a little bit as you bend, but if anything, they're staying kind of in line. We're going to change that up. So now turn your legs a little bit out. So I'm letting both legs turn out. Doesn't have to be your max. In fact, don't do it to your max. Just a little bit of a turnout, so you're now more on the outer heel. And then drag the blanket back toward you. Okay. So this is, I know, it's a lot of work for your hips. It's going to bring you into this kind of frog leg position, and then you can straighten back out. And we're going to breathe. So my exhale as you come in, and inhale as you come forward. And I know I've said it several times in this video already, but don't be surprised if with any of these exercises, you get like a little talking to through the muscles we're working. We're working them in a very mobile, kind of pump-like way. So if you feel this a lot through the hip flexors and it's too much, move less. Don't come in as much, right? Move slower. Don't extend all the way out. Really make it suited to what your body needs today. Okay, and then come back around to that first variation, except bring your feet a little wider than you did before. So now my heels are maybe wider than my sitting bones. And then same thing, we'll do maybe 3 or 4 more rounds. So you're bending to come back in, straightening to come forward. Throughout all of this, I will mention, see if you can avoid letting your whole torso come back. This is your body saying, I don't want to flex my hips. I'm just going to use my upper body. So better that you come to a stopping point that's really doable than you push too far. Oof. I am feeling this one. Let's do one more. Okay, extend back out. Give a little bounce. Okay, now all we do is rest. Now I'm pretty close to a wall. If you're not close to a wall, go ahead and transition and meet me there. We're going to come into legs up the wall, and that's where we'll do a little bit of a rest. And this is like as close as we'll get to stretching our hamstrings today. You're welcome to use a blanket for your head. I'm going to just slide it off to the side. Now, coming into this, I'm going to lay onto my side, and my seat is probably a good 6 to 12 inches away from the wall. So I'm not trying to get to touch the wall just yet. Now, I'm going to slide out with my bottom arm, and then from there, I'm going to turn onto my back, like I practiced how to get onto my back in bed, right? So it's like eyes and knees turn over, and then from there, you bring your heels up onto the wall. Now, if you feel like your feet are pushing the wall away and that's scooting you from the wall, you can always come closer. I would recommend not doing that here, but rather turning back over onto your side, scooting your whole body closer to the wall, and then turning around. It's just a little kinder. And then all you do is rest there with your feet on the wall. Your arms can rest either out or back. Check in with the position of your pelvis. So if your hips are really curling up from the floor, if your abdominal muscles are really working, scoot away from the wall enough, and you might even bend your knees so you can feel that drop of the weight of the pelvis and that drop of the weight of the legs. Now you're welcome to continue resting here in legs up the wall for minutes. And in fact, as you close your eyes and really relax into that legs up the wall pose, you might notice that with time and with breath and with attention that you can actually release a little bit further into the support of the ground, of the wall. Let the weight of the legs really release into the support of the hip sockets. And I'll invite you just to stay in that position and to allow this video to come to an end, and you just continue to rest here. When you are ready to come back up, you'll do everything in reverse and just bend your knees, roll to your side, and come up to any vertical position. But enjoy. I wish you a wonderful day full of lots of support through your legs. I wish you freedom in your hips. Thank you for trying this video, and I'll see you in the next one.